The Book of Honey, by Isida Rochas, Chapter 2, Sewer of Isolation. Honey, once Manfred came by to kick down the ladder, I told him about Kip. He nods and drives off, knowing he expects us to walk. I knew Manfred could smell I was up to something. It was none of his business as long as I was where I was supposed to be. That was his only concern. I climb the ladder and take my time. Dragonfly is going to start counting once I'm out of sight. I don't want to be tired when I get there, so I jog at a light pace. Before long, I'm in the courtyard. It was mostly empty. I always got up before dawn with my kids. Being the first one in the yard meant we always saw others coming at us. There is no one in the yard just yet. I know what JJ likes to do first thing in the morning. He likes to get nice and sweaty before everyone shows up. Women would call at him when he was showing off. JJ was usually one of the first trainers in the yard, strutting around like a fucking peacock in heat. The first thing I did was stand next to a barrel fire, waiting. I pull out the steel garden shears I had been sharpening since last night. Then I pulled out a small blowtorch and started heating the shears as I was keeping an eye out. When they were nice and cherry red, I stuck their handles up in the fire to keep them nice and hot for me. Then I buried the torch so no one could catch me with it. I will retrieve it later. My motherfucking target is heading down the hill to the yards. He is one of the Spanish boys she picked up a while ago. He had been her fuck boy for some time now. He calls himself JJ Sticks, about 10 years older than me. He had a nasty streak in him. He knows better than to come at me directly. He was warming up with his shirt off like a douchebag. All by himself, like he owns the place. I calm myself down because I have a timer to keep my kids from seeing this. I quietly make my way down the hill. With his back to me, he is about to do a chin-up. When he was at his fullest height, I jumped on his legs. My unexpected weight made him smack his chin on the top bar. We crashed to the ground. I rolled out of the way. I was back on my feet with cuffs in my hands. I get them on him, and I am so pleased with myself that I throw a taunt at him. Hey JJ, are you having a good day? My morning has been smashing. I hauled him back and kicked him while he was down. JJ starts cursing at me. What the fuck are you doing, you little bitch? While he was still on the ground, I stomped his face till he stopped speaking. His eyes are hazy, and I can tell I've knocked some of his brains loose. Then I drag his fat ass to the bar and cuff him to it. I stuff one of his dirty socks in his mouth, taping it in place to silence any noises he might make. I speak to him in the most condescending way I can. That's a lot better, JJ, you know why I'm here, don't you? You've been touching my things while I was gone. You even broke one of them, didn't you? He shakes his head. I kneel on his chest and bitch slap him several times. I taunted him. JJ, there is no denying this. I know it was you. He tries to put up a fight, but every time he does I either slap, punch, or knee him in his soft man bits. So, you like little girls? Well, I happen to be a little girl too. Am I getting it on for you? Come on, I'm 10 times better than my toys. Here, let me help you. Standing, I kick him right in the sack. It was the most pleasing thing to watch him crumple. I tied his legs to the other side of the bar with rope. I pull a needle out of my pocket. I give him a large shot of the antihistamine, which will help him sleep off what I'm about to do. I say to him. Come on, JJ, get it up. Between kicks, I screamed, get it up. He screamed and whimpered even with the gag in his mouth. What? Looks like your fuckworm is broken, Mr. JJ. Let's see. I unbuckled his pants, his balls were black and purple. I see what your problem is, those dangly bits are all swollen. I can take care of that. I walk over to the barrel again. This time I came back with cherry hot garden shears. They were nice and hot from the fire. At this point, JJ's screams were drawing in a crowd from the other side of the yard. So, I had to work fast. I cuffed his balls nice and tight. I had no intention of touching the suckbag's junk while it was still attached to him. Using my foot to pull the cuff, I stretched them as far as they would go. Then I snipped them off pretty as you, please. I could smell burnt hair and flesh. I could hear the sizzling sound like when you put a chunk of meat on a really hot grill. It almost made me sick. JJ had passed out from the pain, cauterizing the wound so there was no chance of him getting them sewn back on. So, he could live with himself for the rest of his life. This was my justifiable revenge. Now, I had no more problems with JJ. Untying him from the bar, I dragged his ass to the tree, nailing his nuts above his head. Before I left him there to be found by his followers. I get in his face. I can't tell if he heard me or not, but I say to him, JJ, you are nothing but a piece of shit she scraped off the street and put in her bed. You deserved this misery you earned from me. This is for the last 4 years of crap you have put me through. Now you are going to see how fast she throws you away only to disappear into the nothing you came from. This was for everything you took from me in the last 4 years. I am one bitch you should have never crossed. I hope some of that got through to him. Then I scaled the chin-up bar as all the trainers came to see what was going on. What they found was a demasculated JJ and me smiling down at them with my bone-chilling smile of death and destruction. I wave my fingers and say to them as they noticed me, hello, boys and girls. There were what the hells, was what most of them said, others called me some bad names. This goes on for a moment. I know every person out there that wanted to bring me down and beat me. There were at least 3 that were very pleased with what I'd done. Mostly the female trainers. JJ has messed with a lot of people in the time he's been here. I glared down at all of them with my most intimidating smile. I see my kids coming down the hill. I wanted all the attention on me. So, I started taunting them all. You know what you motherfuckers' problem is? You're all living in a delusion. You're no better than me because you're men, your age, none of that means a goddamn thing. Here we are all the same fucking thing, you can slap whatever label you'd like. We are slaves, we were bought, stolen, traded, and used. People were yelling at me, some started tossing stones at me. People even tried to climb up to me and pull me down. I kick as many hands and faces as they come my way. While yelling at them, I have always known this. You can't threaten me with anything, the only thing I have is my life, and I already know who it belongs to. That ring is the only thing I live for, and my toys were given to me. I treat them like things worth having. It pisses me off when someone comes along and breaks what I build. Their only job for me is to outlast anyone their age and weight. They're not for you motherfuckers to touch. So, this is my only warning to you: don't touch my toys. I was up on that high bar for 10 hours. When someone finally knocked my ass off. By this time, Manfred had arrived. At the same time, I was kicking asses all over the yard. I was grabbed by a group of JJ followers. They were trying to beat me into a corner. My kids tried to jump in, but I signaled to Jinx that under no circumstances was she or they to come to my rescue. Manfred broke up the crowd that was surrounding me. He had a crew of his people. They played crowd control. When he came up to me and grabbed me by the back of the neck, I didn't fight him, not that I could if I tried. He looks at me with his beady eyes staring into my amber eyes. You know I have to take you in, right? Yeah. Manfred backhands me and starts dragging me away. He put my ass in his car. I wipe the blood from my lip when I say to him, "That was a little weak for your left side." Manfred gave me a sideways smirk and looked back over his shoulder at where I left JJ's nuts in a tree. I just gave my best smile as he shook his head. As we began to drive. Honey, I knew you hated that little sack of fuck, but I didn't think you had this in you. I shrug and say to him, guess I'm full of surprises. Besides, I've been meaning to pick a fight with that bastard. He finally gave me the excuse. You know I have to take you to her, honey. I do. He tells me. I prefer not to. Manfred gives me a look and shakes his head. I say to him, let's just get this done. I have to put my dumb bitch face on. It takes the car ride to pull the plugs on my emotions, making my face as unreadable as stone, becoming unflinching in the face of whatever was coming my way. I wasn't going to give these people any of me. They would have to come and take it. Whenever I must spend time with Victoria, I always slip on a different mask, becoming a dumb but charming creature that makes them money. So, I always have value in her eyes. I let her see me like a pet. If anyone ever convinced her I was worthless, I would be dead or worse. I didn't want to think about the worst. Manfred takes me back to the house. Walking past the party rooms from last night, I see naked bodies on floors and sofas, sleeping off hangovers and drug-induced passions. Up a set of grand stairs, past rooms filled with more of the same things, with people too embarrassed to let others see them. This is what we like to call Victoria's Secret Garden. Moving from place to place all over the world. Invited by her wealthy friends, she calls hosts. Her collection of beautiful people that she keeps and trades as she pleases. We come from all over the world in every shape and size. Manfred drags me into a room with 2 large double doors. The floors were tiled in black and white. The entry room was full of fancy things. Then a large, rounded 4-poster bed decorated in the colors greens, reds, brown and white. On the bed were several people of various ages and gender types. Naked except for the same golden chains the servers were wearing last night. We passed this room up for one with large windows and a huge swimming pool in the center of the floor. This room was filled with more naked beauties and armed men. The red hair of Victoria could be seen in the swimming pool, talking to people in masks. The hosts and their guests always wear masks. When Victoria sees me and Manfred enter the room, she stops talking and claps her hands. Sorry, Darlings, I must have the room to myself. I have a bit of business to take care of. All the people wearing masks leave. Victoria leaves the pool and dries herself. All her people shuffled around her as she moved. When she sits in a large throne-like chair, she holds out her hand, and someone with a bowl offers it to her. She picks a red apple out and takes a bite. I am put on my knees in front of her. Her green eyes pierce me. Manfred steps up to the right of Victoria, leaning down to whisper in her ear. She listens and then nods. Then she waves her hand at him, and he backs up a step when she begins to speak to me. So, my Leona B., 2 days in a row, you've come to see me. You seem so desperate for my attention. I bow my head slightly but maintain eye contact with Victoria when I speak most apologetically. I beg your pardon, Madam Victoria, I did not mean to disturb you. Victoria says to me. Well, it is a little late for that, my Leona B. You have disturbed me. I ask you what made you think you could get away with castrating one of my bulls. I shake my head and say to her. I had no intentions of getting away with this, Madam Victoria. I know I deserve to be punished for what I've done. Victoria says to me. So, you deliberately did this, knowing you would be punished. Tell me, do you like being punished, Leona B? I answer her as simply as I can. No, Madam Victoria. Asking me, why did you do this? I say to her in my most dull neutral tone. His man-bits were the price he paid for wasting time and effort. Victoria looked at me, trying to figure me out, but she was never going to. Tell me, Leona B., whose time did John Java waste? Yours and mine, of course, Madam Victoria. I would have easily let this go if it didn't often, but JJ has a bad habit that has cost so much wasted time and effort. She asks me. Explain to me what you mean. I say submissively. JJ is a very greedy man. He likes to come into the yard and take what he wants. More than once, he has been warned that he should ask before he borrows things. JJ likes to borrow my things without asking a lot. Many times, he breaks them before he brings them back. Victoria smiles at my almost childish explanation. And is this a problem, Leona B? I nod. Victoria asks me. Why? I explained to her. It is my job to provide you with the best entertainers, Madam Victoria. To turn frightened children into bloodthirsty fighters is a delicate thing. Pushing them to their peak performance without breaking them is what I do. I have found once you break them, they are useless as fighters. And often, when you break one, they all fall to pieces. That means I must start all over again. That means wasted time and effort. I hate wasted time and effort more than anything. So, I admit he made me angry, so I cut off his nuts to save me future time and effort for his greedy and selfish ways. Victoria laughs at me. It is a shrill and high-pitched laugh. But I continue to speak despite her laughter. I figured a little groveling would go a long way. All I want, Madam Victoria, is to fight, win, and create fighters that win. It's my job to make you money and win you glory. Once again, Victoria smiles at me, her red lips smiling like she understands what I'm saying. I think I understand what you mean. You build something, and someone else comes along to take what you've done, like all your guts and glory don't belong to you. But you have cost me, Leona B. John Java is now useless to me. I speak up. That's not true, Madame Victoria. If he were dead, then he would be useless to you. I crack out my bone-chilling smile. That Victoria mirrors for a moment. Yes, but his value has gone down drastically. I can understand your frustration. So, let me think. Ah, yes, so you can choose your punishment. Pick anyone in this room to hand out your punishment. Besides myself, I don't want to waste the energy to punish you today, Leona B. This choice might seem easy. Pick a weak person or a small person. I don't know those people and don't know how they would punish me. I have seen the punishment handed out by small powerless people. Cruel and monstrous Manfred Cross may be, I can put up with his brand of torture. I made the only choice I was certain of. I choose Manfred Cross to hand me my punishment. I know I deserve it. Victoria raised a red eyebrow at me. Are you sure Manfred is your choice, Leona B? I nod. Yes, Madame Victoria. She waves her hand at Manfred and speaks. Manfred. He answers her right away. Yes, Victoria. You heard what Leona B said, right? Yes, I did, Victoria. Victoria says to him. Just because she is your favorite pet doesn't mean you let her off. Manfred says to her. Victoria, when have I ever spared someone a punishment they deserved? She waves her hand at him and says. All right, begin, but don't kill her, Manfred. It would be a waste of time and effort to let her die. Take her a bit away, I don't want to get dirty right now. Stay where I can see. Manfred nods and says. Yes, right away, Victoria. Once again, Manfred takes me by the neck and drags me to the center of the room. Victoria invites the hosts back into the room. They all find seats as I am about to put on a show for them. In moments like these, I take advantage of this scene. To show these people the kind of bloodthirsty monster I am. To take this punishment without a word, to keep standing like I am asking for more. Showing them all that I am too much for them to handle. I look at Manfred. When he says to me, in his deep raspy voice, he tells me. You will stand there, you will not defend yourself, if you do, your punishment will be twice as long. Put your hands on your chest and keep them there. Manfred's beady eyes stare down at me, putting his hands on my shoulders. He whispers to me just before we get started. Any requests, honey? I was ready for this, all I said to him was. Try not to cave my face in. He gives me a bone-chilling smile that trumps mine. Truly the hardest part of this moment was not flinching. Taking it without reacting. I would take what they deemed me deserving of, I would not let them have one more lick out of me than I was willing to give them. My mind has already sunk inside to my calm center. Everything is drowned out. I can hear the crashing of my blood in my head. It sounds like the ocean separating me from the world outside my mind. When I was there, only a few could reach me until I came down from this place. My daddy's voice was always ready to stand beside me. He speaks. Baby girl. I say back in my head. Yes, Daddy. What's on your back right now, baby girl? He goads me on, driving me, pushing me. Freedom. Whose freedom is on your back? Mine. Whose freedom is on your back, honey? My freedom. How bad do you want that freedom? So badly. How bad do you want that freedom? More than anything. In the eye of my mind, I see him smile at me as he says to me, I don't know, my honey bee, it seems like this guy wants it more than you do. I say to him firmly, that's impossible. Why is it impossible, honey? Nobody wants it more than me. What do you want more than anyone else? My freedom. What? My freedom. Say it again, baby. My freedom. Repeat it to me, honey. Nobody wants my freedom more than me. My life means more to me than anything. I repeat this to myself over and over. The first blow was to my stomach. It didn't make me throw up, the second one did. He backhanded me across the face a few more times. After a few punches, jabs, and kicks, all I knew was pain. Manfred Cross is the most solid human I know. I would get a softer beating from a brick wall. I was grateful for 3 things while he was beating the shit out of me. 1, that he had no rings on like he normally did. I saw him take them off in the car. 2, was that he was wearing the Converse sneakers he loved instead of his steel-toe combat boots. 3, that he was the only person in this room touching me. When we get done, he will be the one to take care of me. That he never made my skin crawl, even as painful as this moment is, I know where Manfred Cross stands. Knowing that is a mercy most will never understand. Manfred beats me profusely. Manfred beat me unconscious. I don't remember him dragging my ass down the halls and stairs. I also don't remember him putting my ass in his car or making me strip down to underthings before I got in. The first thing I remember was him tossing my ass into a water-filled room that smelled like a sewer. The cold, smelly water woke my ass right up. I stand and look around, there is nothing to perch on. Just 4 corners and water that went up to my mid-thighs. Bruised and bleeding for the first 3 days, all I could do was stand there. Each day Manfred would come by with water. I would drink half and use the rest to keep myself as clean as I possibly could. By day 4, most of my bleeding and bruises were healing. Luckily it was in the middle of summer here and the days were warm, at night it was cool. When my skin couldn't take any more water in it, so I would brace myself in the corner. So I could pull myself off the floor and dry a little. By the 5th day, everyone knew what I did and where I was. Besides Manfred, people started coming by to see me. Some insulted me, and others tried to toss things at me. I was lucky the bars above my head were locked with a thick padlock, and Manfred was the only one with a key. No telling what some of these sick motherfuckers would do if they could get down here. The worst time was when I was standing underneath the opening, trying to get as much sun as I could, and they took a piss at me. I felt the warm smelly liquid hit the back of my head and run down my shoulders before I could move out of their range. A couple of times, someone even took a shit. On day 6, I laughed at Manfred when he came to check on me and caught some guys pissing in the hole. He kicked their asses and threatened to cut off their balls if he caught anyone up here but him. I guess my ball-busting reputation has blown up. It was never so bad during the day, but at night the quiet and the outside noise got to me. I spent a lot of time meditating and doing mental exercises, keeping myself focused on the tasks that I would need to get done when I got back to the pit. The moment my wounds healed enough, I pulled myself off the ground by using the corners of the room again. For 10 days, I do pull-ups and leg lifts to pass the time I refuse to get sick or weak. With nothing but water to drink, I had lost weight. I knew things would be rough for a while after I got out. I fucking hated to take it slow when I needed to move fast. Most of the bruises and cuts were fading. I used all my strength to keep myself out of the water. If my skin got too saturated, it would prune up and start to hurt. Not to mention all the diseases that lived inside the stagnant water. When my time was up, Manfred pulled me out and let me hose myself off. It's a good thing he made me strip down to under things. Manfred tossed my ass into the pit. I was grateful to be back in this dark, damp hole. 10 million times better than the sewer of isolation. All the girls gather around me. The boys all knew better than to mess with us in moments like this. They go and stand over in the corner and let the girls clean me up. I could verily stand, but I wanted to be clean far more than I wanted to sleep. They sat me on a wooden box. Jinx brought large pots of warm and cold water. I went to reach for a rag to scrub myself and almost fell forward. The girls sat me back up, and Jinx took the rag and started to scrub me. Then Moxie grabbed the shampoo and washed my head and hair. I was very grateful at this moment to all my girls and my boys bravely standing guard. I know none of them like to see me like this. When Miss Honey gets hurt, everyone is on edge. Finally, they dried me off and helped me get dressed. Dragonfly, drag my ass to a bed. My bag was in my hidey hole. I checked to make sure nothing was missing. Then I looked around and froze. I noticed that Kip was gone. I asked quietly, saying it before I can think. Where is she? Jinx signed to me. They came and took her away. I nodded, there was nothing else I could do or say. So, I sat on my bed, noticing a bag. Just one bag was left out of all my groceries. And it was the bag of Starburst, my smart little shits. They only ate the yellow ones. I pick one up and pop it into my mouth. Then I get their attention and say in my bitchiest Miss Honey voice, "You all have to do what I say because this is the only free place in this world. If they take you from me, I don't know what hope you have outside the ring. Do you hear me?" "Yes, Miss Honey," was shouted by all. So, keeping my head down and distancing myself from the kids was what I needed to do. I need everyone to forget about me and what I did today. I had to make plans. There were many people on my shit list that I could use to help me. I had to do everything I possibly could to see if my kids would make it. The truth be told, I hated myself so much at this moment. I hated what I did. What I hate the most is it did me no good. Kip was gone, and I had no way of getting her back. So, my crazy, cruel justice meant almost nothing. Now I get to live with it. I know I would, but how many more things would they expect from me now that I've shown this hand? That night I couldn't sleep, so I started making plans. London seemed like a good place to kick up some dust. That will be in 4 months. Fighting and waiting were what I needed to do. I am going to burn this organization to the ground. Then take back my freedom.